All right, Saints. I'm ready to dive back into the world of Saint Seiya.
Always a good time for that.
Yeah, and, getting into Saint Seiya, it's, well, it can be pretty overwhelming at first.
Definitely. I mean, between the series and the spin-offs and the movies, it's like, where do you even start?
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why we're here today to kind of break it down and help you guys find your own path through this awesome universe.
I like that. Finding your own path through the Saint Seiya universe.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, it's good.
So we've got a great source to help us on this journey, and that's a YouTube video by, this is a mouthful, Farias Tumesmosako.
Okay.
Another big Saint Seiya fan who's put together some really cool viewing order tips. And one thing that he pointed out that I thought was really interesting is that Masami Kurumada, the creator of Saint Seiya, he wanted Saint Seiya to be a beautiful thing.
I love that.
Right.
It is a beautiful thing.
And a lot of us fans, we definitely echo that sentiment. But the question is, with so many different entry points, so many different series and movies and things, where do you even begin?
Right. There's a lot to unpack, and the story is so huge, and it keeps growing. It keeps expanding beyond that original run. I think a good place to start is the original manga.
Yeah.
The original 28 volumes of the manga, because that was then adapted into that 114-episode anime that ran until 1989, but that wasn't the end.
It just keeps going. It's like the cosmos itself. It just keeps expanding.
Yeah.
And speaking of that expansion, our friend, I'm just going to call him Furious,
Okay, yeah.
he focuses mainly on the anime side of things.
Yeah.
Which, that's a whole adventure in and of itself.
It really is. And I think there are two main approaches if you want to go the anime route. So you can follow the release order, like how things were released in real time, or you can go chronologically.
Okay.
Follow the actual timeline within the story.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I guess we should start with release order, right? Because for some fans, that's part of the fun, seeing how the animation style changed, how the storytelling evolved over time.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of like a history lesson.
Yeah.
On the evolution of Saint Seiya itself.
Absolutely. So picture this. It's 1986. The original Saint Seiya anime drops, and it just explodes, introduces the world to these amazing bronze saints.
So good.
Right. And then a year later, 1987, we get the first movie, Evil Goddess Iris.
Classic.
Yeah. 1988 brings us The Heated Battle of the Gods.
Another good one.
And 89, Legend of Sanctuary. So here's the thing, and this is where it gets a little interesting with the release order. Some of these movies, including these ones that I just mentioned, they're considered filler.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they don't directly affect the main storyline.
So you could watch them separately. You could skip them if you wanted to.
You could, yeah. Although, I'm the kind of person who, I have to watch everything. I have to see it all.
I understand that.
But, Farais makes a good point. These filler episodes, these filler movies, they often give us really great insights into the characters and into the world building.
That's true, yeah.
It's almost like, if you think of it like a video game, like they're little side quests.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to do them to finish the game, but they make the experience richer.
Okay. So I'm with you. I like to consume all the content. I want to get the full experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So we're moving along in the release order timeline, and then we fast forward, like way forward, to 2004, and we get the movie Heaven Chapter. Overture. Oh, boy.
Oh, Heaven Chapter Overture.
Yeah, this is the one that caused quite a stir.
It was a big one, and it really divided fans. I mean, the animation style was really different from everything that came before.
Yes.
And a lot of people felt like the story choices were, they just didn't really fit with what we knew about Saint Seiya.
Yeah, it felt a little disconnected from the established canon to some people.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of things that caused a stir, we jump ahead again to 2012 and Omega premieres. Now, this one was definitely made for a younger audience.
Right.
With, like a whole new generation of saints.
Right.
And a really different feel overall.
Totally different vibe, yeah.
Yeah, it might not be everyone's favorite, but you can't deny that it exists within the Saint Seiya universe.
Right. And it's an interesting example of how Saint Seiya has tried to, adapt and evolve over time.
Right.
Whether it succeeded or not is up for debate.
I think that's a topic for another deep dive.
Maybe so.
Yeah, that's the release order path. Now let's talk about the chronological approach.
Okay, yeah.
So this is for the fans who want to experience the story in the order that it actually happened.
Right, like in the Saint Seiya universe.
Exactly.
It's like reading a history book from beginning to end. And if you want that kind of immersive experience, really starting from the beginning, Farias recommends that you actually start with The Lost Canvas.
Lost Canvas. Okay, tell me more.
So the Lost Canvas takes place centuries before the original series. So we're talking like ancient Greece, ancient saints, a whole different holy war.
Whoa, hold on. Ancient Greece. Ancient saints.
Eh.
We're going way back.
Way back. Yeah, and it really adds this whole other layer to the story,
Right.
to the lore. It's like we see the origins of some of the characters that we know and love, and we learn about the sacrifices that they made, the events that shaped the world that the original series takes place in.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It
Oh,
sounds like it completely recontextualizes everything.
it really does.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after you finish Lost Canvas, you move on to those classic arcs from the original series. Sanctuary, Asgard, Poseidon, and Hades.
The heart of the Saint Seiya experience.
Exactly.
The battles that made us fall in love with these characters.
Yeah, and each arc builds upon the last. You see the Saints get stronger, they get braver, they face even bigger challenges. It's just a classic hero's journey.
It's epic.
Mm.
Okay, so we've gone through Lost Canvas. We've relived those epic battles from the original series. What's next in the chronological order?
Well, next you've got Soul of Gold, which focuses on the Gold Saints and their story during the Hades arc.
Soul of Gold. So we're getting even more backstory, even more depth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this amazing side story that just adds another level of awesomeness to an already incredible saga.
Because, even those seemingly secondary characters, those Gold Saints, they have their own stories to tell.
They do, yeah. And their stories are just as compelling. They're full of these heroic moments and sacrifices.
So Soul of Gold, that's after the original series. And then to kind of round out the chronological order, you've got Omega and Saintia Sho.
Right.
And I know we talked about them a little bit in the release order, but, they're not directly connected to the original storyline.
Right.
But they do offer these, I guess you could say, unique takes on the Saint Seiya universe.
Right. It's like exploring different branches of the same mythological tree.
I like that.
Each one has its own kind of energy, its own flavor.
Yeah. And it shows that there's still room for new interpretations,
Yeah.
new expansions within the Saint Seiya universe.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've given you two main paths: release order, chronological order. So I guess the question is, which one speaks to you more?
Right. Do you want to follow the series as it evolved, see how it all came together?
Yeah.
Or do you want to dive right into that heart of the story, that chronological flow? They both have their pluses and their minuses.
Absolutely. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's really about personal preference, how you want to experience, the excitement of Saint Seiya.
Yeah. And I think that's a great place to pause for now,
Okay.
because we've thrown a lot of information at you. Let's let it all
Yeah.
sink in.
Yeah. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the source material, the manga. All right. Welcome back, Saints. So we've been talking about all these different ways to experience Saint Seiya, release order, chronological order. But one thing I think is important to remember is that Farias, our YouTube guy, he's really focusing on the anime adaptations.
Yeah, you're right. And the anime is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's this whole other world to explore in the Saint Seiya manga.
Oh, absolutely.
The manga, that's the original, like the blueprint, the source code.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where it all started. And the anime, it does a great job bringing it to life, I think. But there's a level of depth, of detail in the manga that you just can't get anywhere else.
It's like you can watch a movie that's based on a book, right?
Yeah.
And it might be a great movie, but there's always those little things, those extra bits of information that you only get from reading the actual book. Exactly, yeah. And for those, who really want to get a full understanding of Saint Seiya, the manga is essential. It's where you learn about, the origins of these characters, the details of their armor designs, their motivations. There's even stuff about the history, the mythology of the saints that just isn't in the anime.
Like, for example, I remember reading in the manga about the Gold Saints and their backstories. And it was so fascinating to see those little glimpses into their past, their motivations, their struggles. It made them feel so much more real.
Yeah, it adds so much depth to their characters. And you also get, a deeper understanding of the mythology behind the saints.
Yeah.
The manga really dives into, the Greek gods and their influence on the saints and the history of sanctuary. It's amazing.
So would you say that maybe starting with the manga is a better way to go for a new fan?
That's a tough one. It really depends on the person.
Okay.
Some people might prefer, the visual spectacle of the anime,
Yeah.
the faster pace,
Sure.
as, their first taste of Saint Seiya. Yeah. But if you're someone who loves to really, savor the details and immerse yourself in the lore, I think starting with the manga is the way to go. It's an incredible experience.
Okay, I'm convinced if I were a new fan, I'd check out the manga.
Yeah.
But, we've been talking about all these different series, all these movies.
Right.
Is there one that, like, stands out to you as the most visually stunning? Like, the best animation?
Oh, that's a hard question. I mean, the animation has changed so much over the years,
Yeah.
but if we're talking about pure spectacle, I think Legend of Sanctuary from 2014, it's got to be up there.
Okay.
The CGI animation is it's insane, especially the fight scenes. It's like watching a Greek myth come to life.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah.
And, for people who maybe want something a little bit more classic, I think the Hades arc from the original series, it still holds up really well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's so dark, so intense, and the animation, even though it's older, it has this certain charm to it.
Yeah, the Hades arc, it's a classic. And it's really where the stakes are highest, The battles are the most intense, the characters are really put through the ringer.
So you've got your options. You can start with the manga, like we talked about, for a really deep dive into the lore. You can jump into the anime, maybe with Legend of Sanctuary for that visual spectacle, or go classic with the Hades arc. There's so much variety. It's incredible.
There really is. And what's even more amazing is that all of this, Faria's focusing on the anime, that's just one piece of the Saint Seiya puzzle.
Oh, yeah?
There are stage plays, there are video games, there's all kinds of merchandise. There's a whole world to discover beyond just, like, the scream.
It's mind-blowing, really. I mean, there's always something new to discover, a new path to take.
Always.
But I think it's time for us to take a little pause. We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
All right, Saints. We are back and ready to wrap up our Saint Seiya deep dive.
Wow, we've covered a lot.
Yeah. Release order, chronological order, manga. Even got a little sidetrack talking about the animation.
A little bit.
What strikes me is just how much thought Ferry has put into his recommendations.
Yeah, definitely.
He's really passionate about helping fans find their way into this universe.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is. It shows how powerful Saint Seiya is.
Mm-hmm.
Decades later, it's still drawing people in and sparking these amazing discussions.
Absolutely.
So for our listeners who are ready to start their own Saint Seiya journey, what final advice would you give them?
I'd say don't overthink it.
Okay.
Just enjoy the ride. There's no one right way to experience Saint Seiya. Don't worry about finding the perfect viewing order or watching everything at once.
That's good advice.
Yeah, just explore.
Yeah. Let your curiosity be your guide. If you're excited to see how the series evolved over time, start with the release order.
Right.
If you want to experience this story chronologically, go that route.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a lore fanatic like me, dive into the manga.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The Saint Seiya universe is vast. There are stage plays, video games, tons of merch. It's a journey you can spend a lifetime on.
And the best part is you get to share that journey with this amazing community of fans from all over the world.
It's true.
So go forth, fellow saints,
Yeah.
and let your cosmos burn bright.